All right, so here with another Packback update. Went through again and noticed a couple of questions here that I think are interesting anyway. Again, as always, like there's no like right or wrong kind of answer on this. You just kind of these are just ones that caught my eye. So the first one is certainly relevant to things that are going on in the world. Oh, excuse me. Right now, this is from Claudia Carbajal. That's why felons are stripped away of their rights to vote. And I guess, I think, a lot of the reasons why, like, these kinds of laws are passed is that there's this violation to society, right? So you did harm, and because of that harm, you're not, you're seen as, like, a second-class person, right? So you don't have any say in the kind of laws that we get to be, we don't give you the right to vote. And that's, like, sort of like a punishment is that you can't participate in the civil process. Now, the part that's like interesting about this, right, is that it's not like you offend, you are convicted of a crime, you're no longer a person, right? Like you are, you're entitled to other basic civil rights and liberties. You don't completely forfeit those. Yet some people want to do that, right? Like that's part of like the additional punishment that you can't have your voice represented in politics. Which is also interesting because, a lot of times in the government, right, that they make decisions about, policies that are related to like criminal justice affairs, right? Extending sentences, what prisons are built, what conditions are available and stuff like that. So people who have been convicted of a crime or who are perhaps a criminal or have a felonious past have no ability to vote or make their voice heard, or even though something's going to directly affect their life, right? Which is I find interesting because if you think about this nation, right? Well, one of the reasons like they were like we had the revolution anyway was to overthrow the British government in the U.S. because they were taxing without representation. Right, so these people, their lives are being affected. They have no representation or any kind of like retribution. They can't like vote people out. They can maybe start a political movement, they can bring attention to the issue, but they can actually go out there and vote to support one candidate or not, right? And, does that matter, right? Do we really care about that kind of thing? I guess it depends on what your view of felons are. We have these people who committed crimes, they go through the process, they have done something, if you go to prison, you did something pretty bad, right? But to say that you can't vote anymore, that you aren't a person, I don't know. I mean, so some states recognize that, or, previously convicted felons who are now, out in the wild, as it were, right? There are some of them, give them right to vote, they have representation, other people don't. And this sparked a lot of, controversy in the sense of, like, is this the right thing to do? I don't know. That's something, you kind of have to decide, for yourself, right? Is it right to have a group of people who have, who aren't represented, and they can't vote, do that? Of course, you can make the same argument, right, for people who are undocumented in the United States, right? They live here, right? They, exist, and for whatever reason they can't receive documentation. Who knows what the reasons are? And they are otherwise a permanent citizen, right? These could be people who are, maybe under DACA, or maybe just people who just live here and they're not, they're not dreamers, right? Should we give those people a right to vote, even though they live here and they're not, formally citizens, right? Do we do that? What do we do with that? That was also a big case earlier this year because President Trump was advocating that the census not account for people who are undocumented in population counts, right? So to lessen the representation of states with larger numbers of undocumented people in the House, right? And that has huge implications, right, in our society about, who has more votes, who has more electoral college votes, who has say on who gets to be elected president, and so on, as well as how much representation there is in the House of Representatives. So I guess like that's another allegory, or another allegory. The right word? Let me look that up real quick. Allegory. No, it's not. I guess it's like another connection to think about. I guess is a better way of putting that. Is that it's a is that also right? Is that the same kind of thing? How should we handle those situations? I don't know. You'll have to figure that out for yourself. But I think that's like a really interesting question that everyone, should really stop and consider is like what rights, really matter and how much voting does it matter. It's really interesting too is like historically, we are, the nation is pretty bad at voter turnout. And this year may be the first time where we have way more voter turnout because many people are opting for mail-in ballots across the nation. So, we'll just end it here. Regardless of your preference or whatever, make sure you're voting, right? You live in California, you get your ballot sent to you automatically if you sign up for it for your driver's license. So, make sure you submit that in well ahead of time, ahead of any postal worries. So, but until then, see you guys next time.